As The Who sang in 1971, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. In this case, it literally is all change at Mercedes, and we are here to analyse what's happened with our man Jonathan Noble. Welcome to the video. Let's get into it. John, can you fill us in? What's the breaking news?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Obviously, Mercedes have had a quite difficult start to the 23 season. Change of car concepts coming along. Things haven't quite gelled as they wanted. But we've learned that, as of with immediate effect, there's been quite a big technical reshuffle, we can call it. So James Allison, who was technical director and moved to become chief technical officer, is to go back to become technical director. And the old technical director, Mike Elliott, is going to take his place as chief technical officer. So it's kind of a job swap, but slightly different remits. Mike Elliott's more full time, and James Allison back 24/7. Not designing, but developing Formula 1 cars and pushing that team forwards.
So what's prompted this reshuffle?
I think a bit of soul searching, maybe over coming out of the winter. The team, believed their car concept was right. They were chasing, decent levels of downforce, quite a high ride height. It hasn't worked. That car fell short. I think they realised before the start of the season. This is why the new concept's coming. And I think Mike Elliott, has been a bit of kind of looking at what he's doing, what's the team doing, what's best for the team. And from what I understand, and I spoke to Toto Wolff about this quite at length, is that Mike concluded that maybe his skill set wasn't ideal for the technical director role. Technical director needs someone hands-on, getting there, pulling their sleeves up, getting on with the car. And I think Mike Elliott, brilliant technical mind, very, understands technology and innovation and what a team needs. So I think his skill set more relates to big picture stuff. And James Allison, I think, perfect for this technical director role. He's done so well at Mercedes in the past, did so well at Ferrari, did so well at Renault. So all those aspects, I think they've basically shifted into positions where their skill sets play off better.
Well, over recent weeks, there have been rumours that they were going to reshuffle the pack and pull James Allison back into Formula 1. You put those questions to Toto Wolff, or at least we did, and they were denied at the time. So what's been going on behind the scenes?
I think there's many facets to this. Stories have been around that after the start of the season, they were going to pull Allison much more into the Formula 1 project. But Toto Wolff said to me, James didn't want that. He stepped aside for a deliberate reason, moving to CTO role to bring on the next generation, to make sure the next technical director had the responsibilities and had the chance and opportunity to do what they needed to do. So there was no talk of James, having an extra day on the Formula 1 team, trying to take over Mike's responsibilities. It was very much, Mike is a technical director. He does that. I'm sticking to what I do. And for James Allison, it was 3 days on Formula 1 big picture stuff and a bit of work on the America's Cup. But when Mike went to him and said, look, I don't think my skill set is working for this job. I think actually the best thing for us is we change over. Then I think that James Allison instantly up for it, eager to get in, roll his sleeves up and push back to what he wants to do, just push the Mercedes Formula 1 team forward. So I think it wasn't happening before because James didn't want it to happen because he didn't want to step on Mike's toes. But now the opportunities come for a kind of a formal switch and a formal handover. It makes perfect sense.
Well, Toto pulled the trigger after qualifying at the first event of the year and said this concept needs changing. Hasn't the same thing happened here? He might be saying, "Oh well, we let it, we let the guys come to us and they led it," but isn't that just smoothing things over in a public face? What's really happened here? Has Toto Wolff said, "Right, I can see the problem. I've pulled the trigger. I've moved you around. Let's get on with it"?
I don't think so. I think this is something Mike's pushed for. In terms of the end conclusion, is Mike went to James. Mike gave these suggestions. James was up for it. It's happened, and they've gone to Toto. But that doesn't mean there wasn't pressure on the team to do something different, look for areas of weakness, work out why things haven't worked out the way they do. Because these can be traced back to decisions made months ago about where are we chasing downforce on this car? What is the platform we're looking for? There are many aspects there. And I think what the start of the season's done is it's triggered some soul searching. It's triggered the opportunity to look at, where did we make wrong decisions? Where is the structure strong? Where is it weak? And I think it's also a time where Mercedes are making changes and looking longer-term future. They're thinking where they need to be in 3 years' time, 5 years' time, 10 years' time. And I think it all fell into that. I don't think this was a pure case of Toto saying, Mike, right, this car's not winning, you're out, goodbye. We've seen that other teams. We've seen James Key leave McLaren. You see it many other teams where a technical director, it doesn't work and they're instantly out. I think Mercedes were very keen to point out that Mike has a skill set that is value, is highly respected by engineers, highly respected in the organisation, but his skills weren't suited to the role of technical director. And what they needed was someone like James Allison back in that position to push them forward and make steps forward they need to make quickly.
Okay, so if I buy what Toto's saying, which is Mike did some soul searching, he came and said, I've got a better skill set, and James Allison, agreed. In most organisations, the CTO, and you've already said this, the CTO is a very senior person, obviously, often board level and thinking about big picture stuff, and obviously often reporting to owners and things like that, of which Toto is a team owner. Hasn't Mike Elliott here just gone above his boss's head and said, I think I need my boss's job? And that's effectively what's happened. Isn't James Allison going to report into the guy that he's just swapped with?
Well, I mean, in theory, the structure is that James Allison now reports to Mike Elliott, which is kind of when you try and do it, basically, it's quite a strange structure that you're switching positions to earn yourself a promotion, in effect. But I think, Mercedes and Toto Wolff for years and years and years has been keen on understanding management, understanding reasons for management success, reasons for management failure, knows that success in a team isn't about an individual. When people make mistakes, it's not a reason to point fingers and fire them and have a blame culture, because you have that blame culture, people get scared to make the kind of the decisions and put their heads above the parapet and be brave on things. All you end up doing is having a system of people afraid to do anything, and that doesn't work. In Formula One, you've got to take everything to the absolute limit, push it and be willing to take risks, be willing to go the extra mile, knowing full well that if it doesn't go right, your job's not on the line. So I think it was a culture, and I think maybe this is what's kind of embellished this decision by Mike to go down this route, suggest it to James, and they do it purely because there is this at Mercedes' culture of thinking bigger picture. People aren't looking just for their own back; they're thinking about the team, and Toto instills this belief about the future and how we can, as an organisation, can be stronger. So I think it falls more into that area.
If I don't say that Mike has taken the blame for their lack of success, it almost feels like he's taken one for the team. Is that a good way to put it?
I think it's an acceptance that your skill set isn't necessarily best suited to the job you're in, and Formula One isn't a business, isn't a sport, isn't a category where there's room for any passengers. If an element of your team is 1% behind someone else and where someone else is, that's the difference between winning and losing. It's absolutely critical, and everything has to be lined up perfectly if you're going to make the gains and be successful. And I think maybe the start of this season has just highlighted that things weren't working the way they wanted to. Mike's been in that role now for 20 months. Perhaps he felt it wasn't playing to his strengths. Much more pressure as the technical director, much more spotlight on you, bold decisions. You make the mistakes, you don't make the progress. People are looking at you. I think in the end, he is a very talented, technical-minded, impressive engineer, and I think, as he accepts himself, better suited to that CTO role.
Well, let me pick you up on something you said there, which is all about taking teams with you. Let me steal a phrase from football. You're in the paddock week in, week out. You do that so that you can pick up on these stories and things like this. Otherwise, we could do everything from home. But it's important that you are there, talking to people, casual conversations. Have you picked up anything at Mercedes over the last 20 months where you feel that Mike lost the dressing room, to use that football phrase, that people weren't willing to follow him, through the dark days, the difficult days, in a way that they would for James Allison? Am I being really unfair on Mike Elliott here?
Yeah, I don't think it's a case of Mike having lost the dressing room and not having faith. These are, engineering teams based on engineering decisions, and it's the success of decisions that you made and the success of the engineering that ultimately decides the success of a Formula One team. But I think why Mike didn't necessarily lose it, I think what James Allison brings is that belief. He's got this amazing charisma around him, and I think his success in the past, the way he approaches the job, can act as a lift to people. It's great. I mean, when I spoke to Toto about these changes, it was quite a beautiful quote from him. He says what Mike's assessment was is that with James, we have a gladiator on the field, and the troops are going to go through the fire for him and with him. And I think that ultimately sums it up, is that if you are the technical director of a team and you're coming in, you need everyone to go through that extra bit. They come into work half an hour earlier, they leave half an hour later. They're willing to put up with this extra pain because they know at the end of it there is success there, and James has achieved that success, and I think it'll be that lift. Not that Mike couldn't have got there and couldn't have delivered it if the team had moved forward, but with James they've got that instantly.
Well, I got to say, I'm really impressed with this decision. I've worked places, maybe our viewers have worked places where the boss is the boss simply because he or she has been there the longest and worked their way up. That doesn't necessarily mean they're the best boss, but people leave over time and they get promoted. And actually, there's so many bosses out there that really, that's not their natural skill set, but they end up in that place and they do a really bad job of it, almost through no fault of their own. So that's really impressive that Mercedes have been able to do this. But let me ask you one final question. We're always told everything takes a long time in Formula One. Audi are coming in 2026 and they're just starting to work on engines now. It's 3-4 year time frames. Can this make any real difference to Mercedes?
Yeah, of course it's going to make a difference. I think the team wouldn't have done it if it wasn't going to make a difference. I think that the key thing is, how quick that difference can come through the system. In Formula One, developments take weeks from kind of design, production, manufacturing it, bringing it to the racetrack. These aren't decisions that change in 1 week. This is 6 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. This is a long-term project, and it's a long-term project to get that W14 where it needs to go. But I think now they have a direction. I think James will give them that lift. The troops will be going through the fire with him, and I think it'll give belief to them about where they're going to now. Give belief to Lewis about the decisions. Changes have come, and it can move forward. So I think it's a win-win for Mercedes. It gets James Allison back to an area where his core strengths play to, and Mike Elliott into a position where his core strengths are played to as well, because bigger picture, longer term, much better suits his skill set. So I think ultimately Mercedes are coming out of this stronger than they were before.
I think you mentioned it earlier, just in the video. This happens immediately, right? So we're going to see when we tune in to the coverage from Baku, we're going to see James Allison back there with his headphones on, getting involved, the notepad out. This happens right now. Yeah,
from what I understand, James will be in Azerbaijan as technical director, and straight down to work. There's no time to celebrate your new job and have a glass of champagne and put your feet up. He'll be on it.
It's really impressive that Mercedes have got the ability to do this. They're such strength in depth. They don't forget how to be world champions. And like I say, it's definitely going to sting for any team that's had that period of success not to be able to do that. And we can't wait to watch the battle commence alongside Red Bull, Ferrari, and the rest. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Jon, for jumping on at the last minute to talk about it. And we would like to hear from you what you think of this news. Can it make a difference? Are they just shuffling the deck chairs, so to speak? I'm sure any kind of Red Bull fans would be a bit more critical of that. Mercedes fans, are you happy about this? Lewis Hamilton fans, George Russell fans, do you think maybe the drivers had some input that we're not being told about? We'd love to know from you in the comments below, and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you like stuff like this, and you give us a thumbs up. It lets us know you like the videos that we make, these kind of breaking news things, and we'll make more like them. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.